Welcome everyone to our second ever dev chat here with Algolia. My name is Brian Robinson. I am a dev rel here at Algolia, and I'm joined with my excellent co-host Chuck. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Yeah, I am also a DevRel engineer over here at Algolia, and I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, excellent. So a couple housekeeping notes. If you're curious about when we are doing these things, we do these hopefully on a fairly regular cadence. But if you're unsure about when it's going to happen, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Algolia, or on our personal accounts there at BRob, BROB for myself, and at Chuck M for Chuck. We have a few programming notes to go over for some stuff coming in the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to dive in to some community content. We're going to dive in and talk about recommendation emails with Chuck a little bit. But first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Let's get this on screen. Oops. Let's get this with everyone. There we go. So we are going to be at Twilio Signal this week. That is tomorrow and Thursday. We're going to be manning the booth there. Twilio Twilio Signal is a really great conference. It's 2 days. It's got a whole bunch of amazing stuff kind of in it. But one thing that you should definitely know about it is that it's got these cool little characters, and I wanted to show that you can actually go in and build your own character. And Chuck and I have had some fun with this today, along with some of the other folks that are going to be in the booth with us. But like, it's just this fun little character builder, and I'm a wizard with an Indiana Jones hat, so I'm excited about that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm actually starting to build a group shot of all of the folks that are going to be at the Twilio booth, so that you can find us by our avatars. So, and we are a
Only the
motley
most,
bunch.
yeah, only the most important work, right? I think you let me grab the current image of that and let me see if I can showcase it over here.
Oh
There we
yeah,
go.
we are
There's
looking
everyone.
good.
Yep. I like the banana and the purple tie there. This is my older one. I was wearing boots that had spurs. Apparently, I didn't realize that was going to be a thing. I didn't see the spurs in the tiny one. So now we've got some Converse, some red
Nice.
Chucks. So I
My
like
favorite
those.
one is our friend with the pumpkin head in the front is one of our account executives who said, and I quote, "I'm business on the top and a party on the bottom there," which is absolutely
Exactly.
true.
Yep. So that's happening tomorrow. You can find out more about that at signal.twilio.com. And you can actually sign up in the agenda for office hours. So I'm
Mhm.
still in the process of building out my office hours, but I'm going to have some on October 21st. I've already put a couple in here. Where are they? I swear I did that. There we go. Office hours with me. I'm going to build that out in some of the break time that we have over there. So if you are curious to chat more about Algolia, I'll be there then. Chuck, you're going to be in the booth
I'll be there
tomorrow,
tomorrow. Yeah,
right?
I'll be there
Yeah.
tomorrow just after lunchtime on the East Coast, but first thing in the morning for you West Coast folks.
And I gotta say, I was kind of looking through some of the content that was happening, and they've got this Twilio Video 101 that kind of caught my eye. I'm pretty curious about building video applications with Twilio. I didn't know that was a thing, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm nerding out about some of the Flex stuff too. We were big Flex users at my previous employer, and I think there's some really interesting. I wish I'd thought of it for this year, but maybe for next year, there's some really interesting use cases around like getting super fast search into like your real time interactions with customers, right? Where time is of the essence. So
Yeah, totally. And so there's a whole bunch. I mean, it's a huge 2 day conference, and there's a lot of exciting stuff. So yeah, I would definitely, it's worth checking out signal.twilio.com. We're going to be there for the entire run of it. And then also, if I've got this set up properly, I was supposed to be on stage at JamSatConf last week. And unfortunately, they had pretty significant technical issues. They had a transformer blow right outside of their studio. And so they weren't able to do the live streaming they were planning on. But we have a rain delay, right? A makeup day for that. October 25th and 27th, which there's a little bit of a split there. It's going to be basically 5 different Learn with Jason segments where we're going to build one giant application with people from like Kelly Vaughn, who is a Shopify expert. She runs an agency called The Tap Room. Somebody from FaunaDB, which is a great database company. Yours truly from Algolia. We're going to be building with Autocomplete JS if you're interested in that. We're going to be doing some things that are search related, but maybe not fully search, which should be a lot of fun. And then Twilio will be represented as well. They're going to be doing some stuff there. And then Sentry for monitoring. So it's going to be a really cool set of about 5 hours of content. About midway through is where I will be. And we'll be talking about, like I said, Autocomplete JS. So if you want to find out more about that, head over to jamstackconf.com and you go to the Learn with Jason section there. Again, this was supposed to happen last week during the conference, but everything that can go wrong at a conference is going to go wrong. So that happened, and I think that's it's going to be a fun little makeup day that we're going to do and show some really great content there. So that's kind of the upcoming content that we're doing out and about with various organizations. But I wanted to go ahead and say, if you are here for any sort of questions, you should definitely ask over in chat. And I saw that we had Vincent over in chat complimenting our Twilio characters, which I appreciate. They're a lot of fun. I'm enjoying them so far. Oh, yeah. I hope they get a little bit wackier as we get more people involved as well. But do ask questions about the platform as we go. If you have any generalized Algolia questions, specific Algolia questions, we're going to be talking about a few different things. But I want to make sure that we spend some time on anything that y'all have.
Yep, we're here for you. We like to hear ourselves talk. We got a lot of interesting things to say, but honestly, nothing that's more interesting than what you have to say. So
exactly. Questions are our lifeblood. So be sure to bring them. So I guess I can dive into something that caught my eye in the community this week, if you don't mind, Chuck.
Go for it.
So I have this article that I found. Well, it's an older article. It came out in July. But Enrique, who is the author of it, I'm going to post this over in chat as well, has updated it with a video as well. So this is integrating Algolia with Sanity.io. And if you're unfamiliar, Sanity.io is a unified content platform is how they refer to themselves. But what you can kind of read into that is that it's a headless content management system that treats your content as data. But there's this entire flow that Enrique has set up for how to think about ingesting your Sanity data into Algolia. And it's a pretty solid article talking about a lot of different things that you need to think about. He goes into importing your data. He starts off manually, moves to doing it with a serverless function, and then shows how to use Sanity's natural native webhooks to update and sync data throughout the process. So there's a blog post July 23rd that came out. Really good content in here. And then Enrique has now created a video version on YouTube, which is, again, it walks you through all of it. He even throws in some stuff around using some interesting Sanity features, not just for the indexing, but walks through how you might want to think about indexing your images when using them with Sanity, which Sanity has like this entire image object that you get that has things from the metadata all the way through dimensions and color scheme and stuff like that. And he kind of walks through a couple pieces of how you might want to not just index the image URL, which would be kind of your first thought process on making sure you have an image in your search results, but actually indexing the entire object so that you have access to all that information, the metadata, the sizing, and all that. So then on the fly, he can make new image sizes based on the data that's in Algolia alongside the data that's in Sanity. So it's a really great walkthrough with a couple, I would call them like pro tips scattered throughout. So it's definitely worth checking out. The links are over in chat. But this caught my eye as a really good kind of piece of community content that came out in the past week or so.
Yeah, super cool. I'm curious. I saw on that kind of diagram, there was a block that just said data massaging. Is that is that piece, is that just kind of like a business logic ETL process, or is that massaging that's specific to data coming out of Sanity?
So it's probably a little bit of both. I think if I remember correctly, so he goes in, and so this is Sanity has their own query language. It's called Grok, Graph Relational Object Query, I think. It's a superset of JSON, really. And it allows you to do some filtering and a whole bunch of stuff. So in this, he's indexing a recipe site, a recipe website. So he's finding all of his content types of recipe, making sure it's not a draft, making sure that it has a URL, a slug, and then making sure that it's not as he calls it, an unapproved one. So he's making sure that all the right boxes are checked to have the data in Algolia. And then he's grabbing a few things. He's making sure that he has an object ID, which we want in Algolia land. We want to make sure that every piece, every record you have in your index has an object ID, and he's mapping that from the ID that comes out of Sanity. And then things like getting all the ingredients. The ingredients have more than just the title, so he just needs the title for his index. And so he's getting all of that. He's checking his what they call portable text, their rich text editor, and grabbing actually all the headlines out of it and storing that as well. Again, so he can index based on any of the headlines, which is a decent way of indexing there. And then he's actually looking for different ways he can do faceting. So he's grabbing the duration, which is time it would take to cook, right?
Oh, yeah.
Categories, tags, and then finer ranking status. He actually has an idea in this of fully approved recipes and pending review recipes. So the pending review ones are still live on the site. They go live, but they should be ranked below fully approved. And so he's making sure he has that data in there. And then in the blog post, he's just grabbing that main image, but he's sending the entire image object, not just the image URL over. In the video, he goes into a little bit more detail about that and why he selects the pieces he does from it. He does a little bit more in-depth stuff in there.
I love this. I mean, this is a really good representation of the fact that you don't need to bring everything over into your index. You want to be selective. You want to find that nimble middle ground where you're getting all of the things that are going to make it easy for users to find this thing and no more, right? Because that's going to be your most efficient point. And this is a really cool kind of representation of a lot of those different pieces here. I love it.
Yep. And the interesting thing is I could almost find a reason, ingredients I think in his data set are both that title, which is the name of the ingredient, but also probably a quantity. And I'd almost wonder if the quantity could also make sense. If you could do something do a search or do a filter of some sort that would be everything that's got at least 1 pound of chicken, or
right.
I don't know, something like that.
Or
might be
even being able to take all of those ingredients, aggregate, do some sort of cloud, get the top 10, and then potentially make them facetable categories or something like that, right? What can I do with these ripe bananas? That would be amazing.
At that point, have a modifier also. And that's the thing, in Sanity, you're structuring, you're modeling your data, and you could just you could toss in a structured piece in there that would be a drop down menu for something, and you could have those match up with the facets. So it's really amazing thought process that he went through on this.
Very cool. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, and then he goes a little further, it looks like, too. He's got bureaucracies, he calls them, shared across everything, but he also grabs the type that doesn't equal user and indexes all the documents, and he walks through the whole process of kind of going into it. So it's a great article.
Very cool.
So that is what I have from Community Land this week. So again, make sure if you're just tuning in that if you have any questions, Chuck and I are here. We can almost consider this kind of an office hours. So feel free to ask any questions you've got about Algolia, about any of the other things that we have going on. But barring that, if we want to talk a little bit about some
Before
AI,
you do that, I would say, why don't you tell them about the crazy fun thing we did with Katie at the Jamstack conference?
Sure. So we got to hang out in the Jamstack Conf booths last week, and it was a great time. We had a lot of great conversations, but nearing the end of the day, we didn't really have any more demos to do, and we were just kind of chatting with folks. And one of our community members, Katie Codes, who has a great article that we could also talk about, asked if we could take a look at an old project of hers that she was thinking about indexing and doing some stuff around, and give her any takes on how we would go about indexing it. And that would also be something that we could very easily do on these streams. If anyone has a site they want to talk about, ways of accessing discoverability or search or doing search in a more robust way, we'd be more than happy to take a look and kind of run through some thought process around that as well.
Right. We're not mean, but we're not soft either. So you'll get some good critique if you have a site that you want us to take a look at.
I wouldn't say that we're not soft. I would say that we want to make your search and discovery the absolute best that it can be. So we're gonna bring that forward.
Right. So if you can handle a little light criticism and a lot of really positive feedback, feel free to drop a site in the comments and we can take a peek at it. Okay, but you wanted to talk about AI.
Yeah, and some recommendations, and we have
Oh, yeah.
Twilio conference coming up.
Yeah. So
Is there anything we could talk about related to that?
So we've just been a little kind of like gaga for Twilio essentially in the blog this week. We had a really good article go up. It might have been late Friday or early Monday. And Brian, I don't know if you want to steer the ship still or if you want me to, but we had a blog post go up that was the third part of a three-parter on store locators and building a store locator. And it was built by one of our, I think, one of our community writers, Clement, and Clement's doing a lot of like really cool stuff with layering. There it is. A lot of different technologies in, but like sort of going with, it starts off with a lot of our geolocation search, some of the cool features that Algolia has around that, but he's just been layering in more and more technologies. In this part 3, the 2 pieces of technology he brings in are Autocomplete, which I know is near and dear to your heart, Brian, which is our open source library for doing like really nice general use autocomplete widgets for your website. So he layers in that, but he also brings in SendGrid, and he's building in sort of text messaging capabilities. So the concepts that he kind of brings in for text messaging are around buy online, pick up at store, right? So essentially a text messaging capability that after you purchase online, if you want to go pick up in a store, we can send you a text message with the location that then you can pick up on your mobile and then be off to the races. Other things would be, around out of stock notifications or any other situation where you want to kind of get that additional piece of data. SendGrid's a really good tool for that. So I thought that was pretty neat and well timed. I think that's a series that's been going on for a couple months now. So it's really nice that it kind of the Twilio piece of it came out this week. So check that out. There's a lot of really valuable stuff, a lot of really positive things across that entire series that I would recommend digging into.
The link for that is over in chat if you're curious about it.
Mm-hmm. So, and I've been really gung-ho on Geocode. I know we talked a little bit about the Geocode for COVID stuff that, I had been working on. So that was kind of near and dear to my heart. But the other thing that just went up earlier today, I believe it was, is we're digging into a solution. This is our solutions team builds kind of more robust foundational demonstrations of technology. And one of the folks on our solutions team, Clement, had built this really cool solution around using our recommend product and some of the features within our search to layer in strong, high quality e-commerce recommendations into emails, right? So the thought process here is, for those that know Algolia, what we're about relevance and increasing relevance. And so, that starts with a search box and having a search box on your site, and making sure that you're bringing up the most relevant results in that real-time interaction. But that same information can be layered in other interactions with your customers. And so I really like this because it's a sort of an outside the search box opportunity to take all of the data that you've collected and leverage it for sending out a really good high quality email. I guess I could kind of jump in and share and kind of show some of the stuff that's been going on my side. Let me do that.
Absolutely. One of the things I just noticed, and I honestly hadn't read the article yet because it just came out today, but it's using nunjucks. I love nunjucks.
Oh yeah,
one of my favorite templating languages.
So let me pop up over here.
Let me know when you're ready, and I'll put you up on screen.
Yeah, I just want to get, how it is. I always have at least 3 VS codes running at any given time.
Yep.
So let's see. Here we go. We'll put this one over on the appropriate desktop. And... Oh, that's the Python one. We'll do JavaScript here. I know you like JavaScript.
I do like JavaScript. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've heard that about you. Okay, cool. If you want to share,
Yep.
let me know when I'm up.
Nice purple VS Code too. Good color.
Do you know about Peacock?
I do. I love Peacock. I haven't.
Peacock's awesome.
I don't have it on this laptop right now. I need to get it reinstalled.
For folks who don't know Peacock, all Peacock does, it's a plugin for Visual Studio Code. When you open a new workspace, it just randomly picks a color and drops it into your VS Code settings. And that allows you to kind of like color code different projects. And then obviously those colors will stay with that project going forward. So it really helps me because I do always have about 3 of these open at any given time. So purple is my email recommendations.
Nice.
So the premise here, this is not, it's not an interactive experience, but we have an interactive experience as part of the solution so that you can kind of play with it. But the core premise here is building out high quality re-engagement emails for your customers to get them back to your site in a number of different scenarios, right? Either they have actually bought something and you would like them to buy something else, or they started looking and they walked away and you would like them to come back and maybe reconsider. And so what Clon has done in this example is there's a client piece of this, which is just kind of a funny little thing. I'll show you at the end where we can kind of like actually see this in action. But the server is really where the meat and potatoes of this lives. And as you were saying, Brian, like we use Nunjucks as our templating. So what he's done here is he started out with these Cerberus templates, right? So these are kind of nice, high quality templates for doing emails that have all of like the good things that you want, when you're rendering an email in HTML. So he didn't have to kind of build this stuff from scratch. And then he went in and sort of built these different snippets based on what we're trying to accomplish. Did they order something or not? Is this a post-order template, right? Where we can say, thank you for your order. Here are some other things that you could potentially buy. Or pre-order template where we kind of say, hey, notice you kind of left off. Maybe there's some things we can help you with here. Or, just we miss you.
I have to say, I'm getting some heart palpitations right now because I always forget the best way to do email HTML is in tables, and it's hurting me. It's hurting me so much, but I'm just gonna sit back and be okay with it. Sorry.
Yeah, you gotta embrace your inner Outlook client.
Yep. With all that good inline CSS too, all those good styles inline.
But the nice thing about, and there's a link to it in the blog post, but the nice thing about using, Cerberus is it does a lot of this for you. Like it builds out this framework so that you don't have to think about any of that stuff. And so as we kind of get into it, our emails themselves, and they're well named here by number.
1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect.
These are the different scenarios essentially here. But the nice thing is these scenarios are kind of built out really cleanly. So each one we sort of have, this is the story that we're telling here, right? So this is a customer who bought a woman's jacket. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our recommend service, not the search service, but Algolia recommend, our second service, to go in and use a machine learning model that's already been trained to retrieve recommendations based on this product that they've already purchased. So this is just describing it. And then this is actually the template itself. So we're going to leverage the templates that were already, in here. So this is a post order. So we're going to bring in that post order Cerberus template. And then we're going to fill in some values here around like what we want the subject line to be, some of the text that we want to fill into those lovely tables you were talking about, Brian. And then just a very small snippet of code here that is essentially using our recommend client. So this is using the JavaScript client for recommend, the pre-baked SDK that we have, making a connection to the service, injecting in this object ID, right? So this is an object ID that hopefully comes from your product catalog, but is also the object ID that we've used in search and the object ID that we're using to capture events, which are critical to recommendations. We need to have user events. We need to know what they're clicking on, what they're putting in their shopping cart, what they've purchased. And then based on those events, when you have enough of them, you've trained a machine learning model, and that model is now aware of what other items are frequently bought together, right? So you had a shopping cart that had this jacket in it, but also maybe had a pair of pants or had a shirt. So our model learns all of that And now with just these few lines of code, we can say, hey, run using that bot together model, look up the subject ID and give me a few recommendations of other things that people have bought. That comes back as a list, and then we can simply inject that into our email. Obviously, we can use all of that information that we have in that record around the pricing, around the photograph that goes with it, the image, and we can use that to generate our emails. And so you can see there's not a lot that goes into this, but this is like a super high quality engagement email based on machine learning, based on information that we know about that individual user. And then it kind of ratchets up from there till we get to a use case here. This is a lot more complicated, but the premise here is that we're layering in not just recommendations, but personalization, right? So this uses a combination of our recommend service and our search service. Within the search service, we have click information about the types of things that you've clicked on in the past, the categories that you're interested in searching, whether you're more likely to look at women's clothing than men's clothing, whether you're more likely to buy accessories. And we can use that to identify categories that we know you're interested in, and then use those categories to retrieve recommendations of other products that you might like within those categories. So this is using a combination of personalization and machine learning to bring highly targeted products into an engagement email, which I think is a super cool approach. And again, not a lot of code for all of that that's going on, right? You're really only talking about, 50 lines of code here, including headers. So I thought this was kind of like a super cool solution that we built. And then, of course, there's a SendGrid component to it because we are sending those emails out using SendGrid. And SendGrid is super easy as well. Once you have sort of your email address registered, your domain validated within SendGrid, you can use their client, and it's really just a few lines of code to send out that email using the SendGrid object. So not a lot of code here, and like a super nice like post consumer interaction experience that has nothing to do with search really. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So it's all about showing the potential for what your customer may be looking to get, right? Like not even discovering like, oh, you liked yellow shirts, here's more yellow shirts, but like, oh, people who bought yellow shirts typically bought this complementary color of pants to go with it. Like
Yeah.
let's showcase that.
This is the one I love, right? So this is like I said, there's a kind of a rinky-dink client that takes you through each of the different scenarios and runs the code and kind of shows you what you get out the other side of it. And you can see here, so this is we didn't walk through it, but this is the pre-order, and I can jump back to the code. And Brian, I'll try and keep from showing turtles all the way down of us here as we go. But in this scenario, this is the. Oh wait, no, it's not this one. It's this one. So this one, you didn't actually buy anything, but from our search side, we know that you spent some time looking at men's t-shirts. So I don't have any history of what you bought. I don't really have a lot of personalization because this is your first time on our site, but I still know that like you did some filtering on men's t-shirts. And so even there, like I can do kind of like a low granularity recommendation where I say, well, I know you like t-shirts. These are the top t-shirts that we sell. Right. So you can kind of come in and see, oh, okay. And maybe you'll find something in here. Or yeah, I was actually looking for that, popular Adidas shirt that's all over the place. But then when you get into these more granular using machine learning, what I love about this one is like, this has been reinforced by people who bought the look, right? So people who bought this jacket, you look at the t-shirt, you look at the jeans, and this is just someone who's, oh, I actually, I really like what the model's wearing and I want to be as fashionable as they are. So I can buy these other things. So to your point, it's not just the color. It's not just, it's a t-shirt. It's literally the stuff that people tend to buy together.
Yeah. Yeah. As proven, not by like maybes, right? But by actual data in the analytics, because you've been sending those events into Algolia's Insights API from the get-go.
Yep. And once again, kind of reinforcing the fact that as you're sort of implementing Algolia search, sending event data, sending click data, sending conversion data, incredibly important. And, if you want to read more about that, there's a really great insights section in our documentation that just kind of drives through that whole process and all the benefits of doing it.
Let's see if I can grab a link to that. But yeah, and that's so like even if you're not using the AI I recommend and you're not using personalization yet, you probably still want to start thinking about how you can do that so that in the future, if you ever decide you want to, you don't have to worry about past data. You've already been collecting it.
Yep. So we've said it before, but recommend needs about 10,000 events to be able to make a suggestion of items that are similar. And it needs 1,000 events, but 1,000 events that contain two products, right, within a conversion event to be able to identify that as a valid pairing or essentially building an edge between those two. So the earlier you collect that data, the more data you collect, and it rolls over 30 days, and the model retrains itself every day. But you got to kind of be in that habit of constantly collecting really good data to be able to train those models.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with it, there's a few different ways of doing it. There's our Insights API. There's integrations with Google Tag Manager. There's integrations with Segment. So if you're already working on collecting some of this user data, you can kind of plug into those, and then those in real time get plugged into our models.
Mm-hmm. So SendGrid for emails, SendGrid for text messages. I'm hoping tomorrow to have some really good conversations with folks about, particularly folks that are doing like real-time interactions using a Flex interface, what they're doing for search now, how are they bringing up customer records, how they're classifying types of calls. I know that was a huge deal where I was being able to quickly identify what type of customer is this, what type of problem are they having, and being able to do that sort of very quickly in real time with Algolia searches, I think would be super cool to have a conversation around. Secretly, of course, I'm fishing for opportunities for new content that we can build on the backside too and share with the
Always
rest of
fun.
folks.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe not so secretly.
Not secretly once you put it out into the world like that. But yeah, so I want to make sure if anyone has any questions, there are a few people hanging out that we have time to do that. But I think that's most of what we had for y'all this week. So again, we're going to be doing this on a fairly regular occasion, making sure that we have time to answer your questions, talk about the things that you're interested in. If you are interested in certain aspects of the way that Algolia works, we want to hear from you so that we can make content that is targeted towards the things that you care about most. So hit us up either on the main Algolia Twitter account at Algolia or on our personal accounts at BRob for myself, at Chuck M for Chuck. And we'll be sure to respond and to kind of like start working on things that that you care about. So I think that's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, and if I understand, like we're here chatting, it's kind of weird to kind of drop something in real time. If you want to just send us something into our Twitter DMs, send us a whatever, we'll be glad to kind of touch on it. We plan on doing this on the regular, so it doesn't have to be right now.
Yeah, and the other place you can kind of find us and kind of get some information would be our Discourse Forum, which has a lot of great information just in general. But if you have a very specific use case, you can post a new question at discourse.algolia.com. I'll post that in chat as well.
Oh man, I got boosted to a new level within Discourse, and now I'm hungry for more. So I'm looking for questions to answer. So
get those questions in so that Chuck can get to another level. He's out leveling me at this point, but
I'm so excited, so excited. Find out all those new things I unlock in Discourse. It's going to be great.
I'm sure there's a ton that you'll unlock. I'm sure that there's just an absolute glut of information for you there.
Hey, Brian, here's an interesting fact for Algolia users that I found out this week.
Nice.
So we've actually rebranded a feature. So if you are a user of dynamic re-ranking, you're going to find that listed as AI re-ranking now. What you're going to find, and this is some good inside baseball, but kind of good for our Algolia users. We've talked about personalization a lot of different ways over the years. We've talked about recommendations a lot of different ways over the years, and we've talked about AI a lot of different ways over the years. And so we're making a concerted effort to kind of rename, rebrand things so that they make a little more sense. there are things that were called recommendation in the past that were actually personalization. So you'll find that we're going to start branding things as personalization to kind of differentiate from the recommend modeling service that we have. And this is another one of those things. So this is AI re-ranking. This is, again, using sort of the insights to build, to let us kind of identify ways to help with re-ranking here. So if you go into our search and type dynamic re-ranking, and you're like, I swear there was something there before, AI re-ranking is what you're looking for now. And again, you're going to find more of this kind of going forward. We're going to be talking more about what we mean when we say bring your own models for machine learning. For those that don't know, this is something that we've talked about in the past. The concept is much like for recommend. This is a cool thing I learned this week. When we train our recommendation models for telling you, frequently bought together or related items, the way we do that, we're not doing a real-time run of that model for each search. We're using those models to build out secondary indices that actually have those relationships baked into them. You can go look at those models, which is kind of cool, or those indices, and you can see what's happening there. And there's nothing to stop you from doing the same thing. If you have a data science team or a BI team that's already building out sort of really interesting things, and this is what we talk about when we talk about like attributes for ranking, right? If you're pre-calculating or using machine learning models to build relationships between whatever your records are, right? Products, media, recipes, whatever it is, you can take that and build secondary indices, bring those into Algolia and use those for your search results. And we're going to be talking a lot more about what we mean about bring your own AI or bring your own models and how to do it. I think in the next few months is what you're going to see too.
Yeah, totally. Nice. Well, no questions have come up in chat. So I think we'll start wrapping up. I'm going to do a couple reminders real fast. So tomorrow and Thursday, we are going to be in a booth at Twilio signal.twilio.com. We're going to be doing various sorts of office hours throughout the day. Chuck is actually going to be in there with Clement tomorrow, going even more in depth with what he shared today, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, we're going to be digging way deep into that recommendation email.
Do you remember what time that's going to be tomorrow?
I think it's during the first break, which is 9:30 Pacific time, 12:30 Eastern time. So it'll be, I think that's the first break after the keynote. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm having some technical difficulties. It keeps telling me there's a session scheduled across when I put my hours in, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. They've had a couple technical issues with the office hours functionality, but yeah.
But I assure you, I'll be there.
You need to raise your finger about stuff more often. Makes it seem so official. Yeah. But yeah, we'll be doing that. We'll be in booth most of the day tomorrow, and then I'll be in booth on the next day talking about various Twilio stuff, various Algolia stuff, answering questions, giving critiques, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and they're doing the office hours using Flex, which is pretty cool. I'm kind of excited to be back into it.
I'd love to kind of see like the back end of that and see how all that kind of functions.
Oh yeah.
And then a week from yesterday, next Monday, October 25th, Learn with Jason is doing a whole day starting at 12:30 Eastern time for Jamstack which was last week. They had technical issues, rescheduled the Learn with Jason track. We'll be talking autocomplete with Jason at 3 p.m. Eastern time next Monday, building some cool action-oriented autocomplete JS there to power some cool swag stuff that the Netlify team is working on for Jamstack. So that'll be next Monday, October 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
That'll be entertaining. I'm looking forward to it.
It is always entertaining with Jason. And the great thing is it's super stress-free for me because he is just an actual great programmer. And when I was on Learn with Jason a year or so ago, he was writing code about half a second or 2 seconds ahead of what I was going to suggest to him. So it's a breeze. It's great. I love it.
Nice.
But yeah, so I appreciate everyone coming out, hanging out with us today. I hope you learned something. I hope you saw something cool. And I hope that that we can keep doing this and hanging out with y'all in the future.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.